So, ngayon naman ay introduce natin yung sine function. Okay. So, itong sine function is denoted by this SGN. Yan. So, sometimes it is also called as the signum function. And it is equal to 1 when x is positive. Okay. Equal to 0 when x is 0. And negative 1 when x is negative. So, it's actually a special kind of piecewise defined function. So, sketch natin yung graph ng signum function. Ayan. So, when x is 0, so 0 siya. So, when x is positive, it is equal to 1. Okay. So, kunwari, andito yung 1. So, ito siya. Let me use blue. So, blue. Ayan. So, ito siya. Now, I need to put a hollow circle here since hindi siya part ng function, ng graph. Okay. Or maybe let me just make the graph. Let me just improve the graph slightly. Ayan. And then, dapat hollow itong part na to. Ayan. And then, when x is negative, so itong part na to, equal lang siya sa negative 1. Ayan. And then, of course, hollow din siya. So, this is the graph of the sine or the signum function. Okay. Now, we also have the floor function. So, the floor function denoted by f of x is equal to this, using this notation. So, this gives the greatest integer less than or equal to x. So, medyo i-digest muna natin kung ano yung definition na to kasi medyo confusing yung presence ng word na greatest and then less than. Pero kung itatagalog natin, ito yung among the numbers na mas maliit sa x, ito yung pinakamalaki. Okay? And it is also known as the greatest integer function. Okay. Meron tayong alternate notation. So, sometimes ito yung notation na ginagamit. So, if I'm going to write that by hand, ganito yung itsura niya. Okay. Maybe let's look at some examples para mas magets natin yung definition. So, floor of 5. Okay. So, pinakamalaking integer na mas maliit or equal sa x. So, pwede naman equal sa x. But dahil integer naman itong 5, the floor of 5 is also 5. So, ganun din kung negative. The floor of negative 5 is equal to negative 5. Lagyan natin ng decimal. For example, 2.001. Ano yung integer na among the integers na mas maliit or equal sa 2.001, ano yung pinakamalaki sa kanila? Well, ano nga ba yung mga integers na less than or equal to 2.001? We have 1, we have 2, we have 0. So, negative 1 is less than 2.001, so pasok siya. So, and so on. So, among these integers, ano yung pinakamalaki? Well, it's the number 2. So, the floor of 2.001 is the number 2. Ngayon, kung 2.99 naman, or 2.999, Well, yung number 3 kasi hindi siya pasok. Kasi ito lang yung hinahanap natin. Less than. So, ganun din. Ang pinakamalaking integer na mas maliit or equal sa 2.999 ay 2 din. Ngayon kung negative naman, negative 2.001, ano yung mga integers na mas maliit dito sa number natin? Okay. Negative 2, hindi siya pasok kasi mas malaki siya. Negative 2 is greater than negative 2.001. So, negative 3 na yung kasunod na pasok. So, negative 3 is definitely less than negative 2.001. So, negative 4 then, negative 5. And obviously, among these integers, ang pinakamalaki ay si negative 3. Ngayon, kung meron naman tayong negative 2.999, yung floor niya is also negative 3. Sketch natin yung graph nitong floor function. Drawing ko muna yung Cartesian plane. Merong pattern ito. Okay. Let's start with, let's just consider a small interval. Let's start with 0. So the floor of 0 is 0. Halimbawa ito yung 1. Ayan. Itong mga numbers na to na nasa pagitan ng 0 at 1. For example, 0.5, 0.3, 0.9, lahat sila yung floor nila ay 0 din. Okay. Okay. But what is the floor of 1? The floor of 1 is 1. So, dito sa 1, yan, nandito na siya sa taas. Pero itong part na to, yan, hindi kasama itong point na to. So, I'm going to draw that as a hollow circle. And then you can just use this as your template for the rest. Okay. So, ito, and then we have this. Ayan. And then dito naman sa negative part. Ayan. Ayan. And so on. So that's the graph of the floor of X. Ngayon, may kapatid itong si floor of X. Ito ay si ceiling function. Okay. So this gives the smallest integer greater than or equal to X. Ito yung alternate notation. If that's handwritten, it will look like this. Ayan. So, pinakamaliit na integer among those na mas malaki or equal sa X. So, katulad nung floor function, kapag integer na mismo yung nasa loob, yung ceiling ay hindi nagbabago. So, ceiling of 5 is equal to 5. Ceiling of negative 5 is also negative 5. Now, let's look at the ceiling of 2.001. Okay. So, ano yung mga choices natin? Mga integers na greater than or equal to X. So, ano yung pinakamaliit sa kanila? So, 3 is an integer greater than 2.001. 4 then 5. And so on. The smallest among them is 3. So, the ceiling of 2.001 is 3. Okay. For 2.999 naman, yan. So, 3 din. 3 yung pinakamaliit na integer na mas malaki sa 2.9999. Ngayon, kung negative 2.001 naman, ano yung mga integers na mas malaki sa negative 2.001? Well, negative 2 is greater than negative 2.001. Negative 1 is also greater than that. 0, and so on. Ang pinakamaliit sa kanila ay ang negative 2. Ayan. Ganun din si negative 2.999. Okay. So, negative 2 is greater than negative 2.999. So, hindi pasok si negative 3. Kasi negative 3 is less than negative 2.999. So, we start with negative 2. So, siya na rin automatically yung pinakamaliit among them. So, negative 1 is also greater than negative 2.999. Pero hindi siya yung pinakamaliit. Okay. So, the ceiling of negative 2.999 is equal to negative 2. So, sketch natin yung graph nila. Yung graph ng ceiling function rather. Okay. So, katulad nung sa floor function, we just need to get some template na kokopyahin natin. So, yung ceiling ng 0 ay 0 lang din. Now, between from here to here, when x is equal to 1, yung ceiling ng 1, 1 lang din. But let's look at the numbers between 0 and 1. Ano yung ceiling nila? For example, ceiling ng 0.5. Because 0.5 is here. Okay. So we're looking for the smallest integer greater than or equal to 0.5 and that is equal to 1. So therefore, ganito yung itsura ng graph. Yan. So meron na tayong template, kokopyahin na lang natin yan. Ayan. And then you can continue this on your own. Ayan. So parehong mukhang hagdan yung graph ng ceiling tsaka nung floor function. And for that reason, itong dalawang ito, itong floor and ceiling functions, they are also known as step functions. And step functions. Okay, we have some questions here. What are the domain and range of the sine, floor, and ceiling functions? Let f be the sine function, and then let g be the floor function, and then let h be the ceiling function. Okay. So, lahat naman ng real number may floor, ceiling, tsaka sine. Okay. So, all of these three functions are defined for any real number. Yung domain nilang lahat, domain ng f is equal to the domain of g is equal to the domain of h is just a set of real numbers. Magkakaiba lang sila dun sa range. Ano ngayon yung range ng sine function? Well, ano nga ba yung magiging resulta kapag kinuha natin yung sine function? Okay. Well, tatlo lang naman yung posibleng values. Those are negative 1, 0, and 1. So, ito lang yung elements ng range ng sine function. Yung floor function naman, which is g. So, ano yung napoproduce ng floor function? It will just be the set of integers. Yan. I hope you still remember our notation for the set of integers. So, ganun din yung ceiling function. The range is the set of integers. Question number 2. When is floor of x equal to x and ceiling of x is equal to x? Well, obvious naman yun sa mga examples natin kanina. Kapag integer yung kinuna natin ng floor at ng ceiling, hindi siya magbabago. So, This happens when x is an integer. So x is an element of the set of integers. So itong symbol na to, this means element. So, or is an element of. So x is an element of the set of integers.